Like a lot of people lately, I've really gotten interested in the van life and bus life movements. We've already spent a lot of time on the road, and I do have some build videos in the works. What I want to talk about today, though, involves one of the biggest van life questions: how to make a living while on the road. I recently met Kenny, the owner of Loadup Transportation. Kenny's building out a new ProMaster with a living area. Even though he's approaching this from a business perspective, it would be just as practical for van life as a freelance income source. So here's my interview with Kenny on trucking and building out his van. Be sure to check out his channel, Load Up Transportation, link below. Hi, this is Scott. Welcome to the channel and welcome to my first interview. I've got a special guest here. This is Kenny with Load Up Trucking. Kenny, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you, Scott, for having me. Now, I got to tell you, Scott, this is weird because I'm normally the person that does the interviewing. So
Right.
me being interviewed, it's a little weird, a little different, but I'm excited, glad to be here.
Understand, and I appreciate you bearing with me through this. Yep. Now, I recently met Kenny and learned that he's getting into trucking. I'm sorry, getting into van life through trucking, which is kind of backwards from what we usually talk about on my channel and what I'm going towards, which is figuring out how to make money while you're doing van life. And I think van life is, for Kenny, is going to be just a part of the business, having somewhere to sleep. Am I thinking about this in the right way?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, van life is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is typically someone that's looking to live out of the van, maybe camping and seeing the world and or seeing the country. And for me, it's more of a business. And so when you think of trucking, most of us think of tractor trailer, 18 wheelers, but there's so many
Mhm.
different types of equipment that you can do trucking in, whether it's in an 18 wheeler, whether it's in a box truck, or in my case, a cargo van.
Right.
And we do what they call expediting. Expediting is pretty much, excuse me, is what it's saying that you got to get something to where it needs to go quickly.
Right.
In a cargo van, obviously, we're not hauling as much freight as a 18 wheeler would. It's something similar, maybe something very small. And let's just say, Scott, you call me and says, "Hey, I need to get, I don't know, a box of candy from the East Coast to the West Coast. How
Mhm.
much would you charge?" And we come up with a rate, and then I would bring that freight to you, and we get
Okay.
paid for it. So,
Now,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, I'm sorry. I know we're going to talk about. I'd like to talk about the specifics of what you're trying to do with your van. But first, if we could get a little background, can you tell me a little bit about how you got into trucking, how long you've been doing this, and a little of your background in that?
So my background consists of a lot. I think I'm a jack of all trades, but primary, I've been in broadcast communication for over 3 decades. Uh, in between radio jobs, I was always intrigued with trucking. So when I wasn't doing working for a radio station, I was driving a truck. You know, we always make the joke, if you have a commercial driver's license, you'll always have a job. And so when I wasn't doing radio, I'd be in a truck. And the more I did it off and on, the more I became intrigued with it and started doing a lot of researching and you know, and I started driving trucks again. And I decided one day when I stopped doing radio, I want to work for myself. And I would buy a truck, and that's how I would make a living. And so I've been doing trucking off and on since 2007.
Oh wow. Okay. And is that mostly large trucks, semi? Is that what you've been doing?
Great question. Yes, when I started off, you got a CDL, commercial driver's license, and when you, for those who don't know, you've got a Class A and you've got a Class B, and of course, the Class C is just regular driver's license for a car. But a Class A is a license that you would need to drive a 18 wheeler. Class B is primary for buses, whether it's a school bus, whether it's a city bus, or whether you're driving a commercial Greyhound bus.
Mhm.
And so I actually started off with the Class B and was driving the city bus for a while.
Okay.
And then I decided to go to a Class A. So I had to go to a trucking school. When I got my Class B, the city took me through their school to get a Class B to drive their buses. And so I went to a truck driving school when I had to drive an 18 wheeler, and I got a Class A. I didn't do anything with it because I took a vacation from my job just to go get the Class A.
Okay.
And so later on, I went back and drove trucks for a little while.
Okay. All right. And what you're getting in now is expediting, which is, I imagine, completely different. I don't know. Again, I know very little about trucking. Sorry.
Well, no, you're okay. Trucking is really not that complex. It is basically, my wife used to ask me, well, what do you do every day? It's just moving a piece of freight from point A to point B. Freight can be anything. It can be bottled water, it could be a car part, it can be paper towel, it could be anything.
Mhm.
So trucking is just basically moving something from point A to point B, and you get paid to do it. And that's pretty much trucking. The big trucks is going to move a lot more freight. You've got reefer, which means it may be food. You've got, you know, uh, liquid, could be fuel, it could be water, it could be you see those wide loads truck where they be moving a home. So it's just really moving something from point A to point B, and really that is trucking. You have different type of equipment that you can do it in, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just moving something from point A to point B, and they need it in a specific time frame.
Okay. All right. Now, a lot of my audience may be curious about, like, say, more making money while you're on the road. They want to get out. They want to see the country, have the freedom. Um, but as far as what a day in the life of a trucker is actually like, if you could shed a little light, uh, yeah, just give people a feel for what the life is like day to day.
A lot of driving, Scott. I mean,
Yes.
your job is driving. I mean,
Mhm.
people when they ask about getting into the business,
Mhm.
I always say in any business, especially if you're working for yourself, you need to love what you do.
Mhm.
So if you're someone who like to drive, and I'm not talking about across town,
Mhm.
you got to drive across country. So if you love to drive, that's perfect. That's the main thing. You're driving every single day in hot, cold, snow, rain, sleet, wind.
Yeah.
It's driving. So day in the life of trucking is I get a call from a dispatcher or a broker, and they will say, "Hey, Scott, I've got some tires that I need to get from Texas to North Carolina. Today's Monday. I need it there by Tuesday morning, and here's what I'm going to pay." And if you say yes, then they will send you some information on where to go pick it up. When you get there, you'll go in and say, "Hey, I'm Joe Blow here to pick up blah blah blah." They'll tell you what door to take your truck to, and then they'll load you up. You'll sign it saying you got it, and now you're off to the races to take it to the destination. You drop it off, you get signatures. Nowadays you take your cell phone, you upload that back to the person, whether it's the dispatcher or the broker, and then they pay you. That is literally what you do. Um, Most of the time it goes good, but
Mhm.
again, it's trucking. Anything can happen.
Right.
Now, the other part that some people have a problem with in terms of trucking is the lifestyle. The lifestyle of trucking is, in most cases, if you OTR, that stands for over the road,
Mhm.
you're not sleeping in your king size bed every day. You're sleeping in your truck,
Mhm.
and you're doing that at a Flying J, or, TNA, a truck stop pilot, and you're in the parking lot and you're sleeping right. That's where you sleep. You say, well, where do you get up and go to the bathroom? Well, you get up and you walk into the truck stop. Where you take a shower? Well, the truck stop. They have a shower.
Mhm.
And where do you eat? Well, you can, you can't, you gotta stop and get food. If you're eating out every day, you're gonna spend a lot of money. So you gotta have your van outfitted for that. So the lifestyle is living on the road. So it's similar to those who may be camping,
Mhm.
but the difference is they're at a campground and it's a lot nicer
Right.
than a truck stop.
Right. Okay. Got you. And that kind of brings me to another question. And as a businessman, you probably don't like to hear this, but say you were wanting to, uh, drive for a while and stop for a while. Enjoy the scenery, go camp for a while, wait a while for another pickup. Is there a problem with that? Are dispatchers not going to call you if you're not available all the time, or is it bad for business to do it that way?
Scott, that's a great question. So it all depends on how you are running. What do I mean by that? If you are a owner operator, meaning you own the truck, you operate the truck, you
Mhm.
work for yourself. So you work when you want to work. However, if you are under a load, meaning Scott, you called me and said, "Hey, again, I need to get these tires from Texas to North Carolina. It's
Mhm.
Monday. I need it there by Tuesday." Now I accept it. I pick it up. I'm under a load,
Mhm.
so I got to get that to you when we agreed to get it there.
Mhm.
After I deliver that load, I can go out of service and not answer the phone if I'm an owner operator. Uh,
Okay.
and I got to go back because there's a couple of ways. You can be what they call the company driver. So if you see these trucks on the road, these 18 wheelers with the big company name on the side of it, you are
Mhm.
an employee. So they will dispatch you. We call it forced dispatching, meaning they call you, you've got to run. Now, an 18 wheeler, you're regulated. And that means you can only work 14 hours a day. You can only legally drive 11 hours a day. But if you, and so people say, well, I'm confused. You work and you drive. So you have what they call an ELD. That's an electronic login device. And once you log on, your clock start. That 14-hour clock starts.
Okay.
And what happens within that 14-hour clock? Well, the first 15 minutes, you're going out and inspecting your vehicle to make sure it's road ready. And then you're going to start driving.
Mhm.
And once you get to the shipper, they may take 3-4 hours to even get your truck loaded, unless it's a drop and hook. That means you're bobtailing and you go and hook up to a trailer. Or if you already got a trailer, you're going to go and they're going to load your trailer up. Well, let's say it took you 4 hours. Well, you can't even drive 11 hours anymore because you're 14. You got a total of 14. So if
Okay.
you took 4 hours getting loaded, what do you got? 10 hours left.
Mm. Yeah.
So that's kind of, how once your clock starts, you only allowed to work 14 hours. Now, if you are doing what I'm doing in a cargo van, it's under 10,000 pounds, so it's not regulated. As a matter of
Okay.
fact, you don't even have to have a commercial driver's license. You're regular class C. So you
Okay.
could drive 18 hours. I wouldn't recommend that, but you're not regulated. You can work as long as you need to, within reason. So it's a little bit different, and a lot of people are transitioning to cargo vans for that very reason, and it's a lot cheaper. So to answer to your question, it just depends. When you're under a load, you got to get it there when it's supposed to be there.
Okay. All right. Got you. Yes. And that again, like I say, my audience is a lot of people trying to figure out how to make money while they're trying to get out and enjoy the road. Uh, so it sounds like what you're doing is more choice for them. But again, if you're looking to make a living and actually make money and be successful for it, it's not really the plan. I wouldn't imagine.
Well, when you start talking about the money part, it could be very complicated. I mean, because it's not your typical 9 to 5 where you got a set hour, you've got a set salary or a set hourly rate.
Hmm.
Trucking, a lot of time, maybe it's by what they call RPM, rate per mile. So we'll use $1 a mile for an example, and you're going 1,000 miles. That's $1,000, and you say, "Well, man, that's pretty good for a day's work, right?"
Hmm.
Well, yes and no. Number one, can you do that in a day, or will it take you 2 days? The other point is how much fuel are you going to use? How much is that fuel? Well, depending on where you are, fuel, if you're lucky, just $5 a gallon, and we're talking diesel. So it's probably more than that, $6 or $7 now, depending on when people are watching this video.
Right.
So you've got to know what it costs you to run that truck. So if you're going 1,000 miles, it's probably going to cost you $400 maybe. So
Okay.
you're looking at $600 now, and 1,000 miles, more than likely, if you're an 18 wheeler, you're probably not going to be able to do that and be in, what's the word I'm looking for, and be in compliance with the hours that you're allowed to work. So it's
Right.
going to take 2 days
Okay.
and $600, $500 for 2 days work. You have to decide, okay, is that enough money? And it just depends. You may get someone to come and say, we're going to give you $3 a mile.
Hmm.
So to go from East Coast to West Coast. And let me just say this: there's a lot of money that can be made in trucking, uh, but you may make the best money you've ever made in one week. The next week
Hmm.
you may not make any money. So I always used to say that money doesn't come with instructions. So if you have a great week, you may want
Mhm.
to hold some of that because next week may
Right.
not be so great. But I started doing it, Scott, because I wanted to work for myself. And you
Right.
brought this up earlier on, um, when you were talking about what made you want to do it, and that was the flexibility of wanting to, to have more flexibility with my schedule, when I want to work or when I didn't want to work. It's kind of like driving for Uber, if you will. You just turn it on and take rides when you want to, and turn it off when you don't want. So you work when you want to work. Obviously, there's pros and cons to that. If you don't work, you're not making any money. But
Right.
anybody thinking about getting into trucking, the first thing I would do, if you have a spouse, is have a sit down conversation, because if you're over the road, you're going to be gone 2, 3 weeks at a time, especially if you're driving for a company. That's going to be a requirement that you stay out at least 3 weeks. And then for every week that you're out, they'll give you a day of home time. If you're owner operator, you can come and go as you want, but you're certainly going to be away from home every day. So, you want to talk to the missus or the husband about that, and make sure that you're okay with the lifestyle, being over the road and living out of your truck, sleeping at a truck stop. And some people may be saying, "Well, man, he makes it sound so horrible." I love it, but what works for me may not work for the next person. And so, um, I remember a relative of mine says, "How can I find out if trucking is for me?" And I said, "Well, wake up about 7 o'clock at night, and I want you to get on the road and drive east, south, northwest, don't matter, for about 12 hours or 11 hours straight. Only stop for fuel and restroom and keep going. When you get there, pull into a truck stop or a rest stop, get in the back of your vehicle and go to sleep.
Mhm.
Wake up, go in the public restroom, use the restroom, take a shower, and then get in the car, turn around and come back. You drove all night. It's pitch dark. If
Mhm.
you can do that, trucking may be for you. If
Yeah.
if if you one of those that need to be home every night, you want to sleep in your bed and be able to watch the game,
Mhm.
it may not work for you.
Maybe not. And it's funny you say that because a lot of people that get into van life, from what I've seen, it sounds like that experience is a lot more uh, true than what they imagined to begin with. You end up sleeping at a Cracker Barrel or a Walmart parking lot, something like that. But still, I think the freedom just to be out on the road, do what you want to
Yeah.
do, just sounds like just so
The,
much
the
of a
the
plus.
freedom, Scott, is the best part. I mean, if I'm in a camping ground with my cargo van, I can break out the barbecue pit. I can break
Mhm.
out my drones and be flying my drone. Sometimes I can go fishing. Depending on where I am, I'm seeing the world. If I'm in Florida, I can say I'm not going to work the next day. I'm going to be hanging out on the beach. So there's a lot of pros to it as well. And like I said, you can make good money at it. You just have to be, when you get my age, sleeping is overrated. I can sleep anywhere. Once if there's a pillow, I'm going to sleep. And and
Right.
it's yeah, and so it's I enjoy it, but and again, I'm working for myself. Now there's no benefits when you're working for yourself, in terms of you got to get your own medical insurance, you've got to, set up your own retirement and all of those things. But again, in my opinion, there's nothing like working for yourself. Now, if you love what it is that you do, if it's a regular 9 to 5, there is totally nothing wrong with that. I always say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life if you love what you do. However, the flip side of that is, if you own a job, you make good money, but you hate it. So
Right.
you have to kind of, and sometimes, and I'm getting on pace here, when you working a 9 to 5 that you don't like and you make good money, it actually cripples you, because you're there because of the good money. Now, we have responsibilities too,
Mhm.
but if you're not happy with what you're doing, and not saying trucking is for you, but if you've
Mhm.
always had thoughts about starting your own business, do it.
Right.
Do it.
I can see that. I've been in the same job for a lot of years, and you do get complacent. It's just the thing that you do, and you kind of get boxed in. So I see exactly what you're saying.
If
But
you love what you do, keep doing it. But if you don't, try
yes,
to find something, do something else.
all right. Well, now I did want to get back to one more thing before I let you go. I kind of touched on it earlier. Could you tell us a little more about the van that you just bought and what you plan to do with it?
Absolutely. So I bought me a well, let me back up and tell you what I was looking at. and then what I ended up buying. So I wanted to get a Sprinter van, and people when they hear Sprinter van, they think just a van in general, but there's actually a Sprinter van. It's by Mercedes, so we just
Mm,
gave them a plug. So a Mercedes Sprinter.
mm,
I wanted to get the biggest, the longest, the tallest, because for obvious reasons you can haul more freight. But
right.
they wanted so much money, and everything now is higher than what you would pay for 2, 3 years ago.
Mhm,
So, and not to mention an oil change on a Mercedes is about $400. And so I said, well, and it took me a while. You would have to order it and wait several months to get it if you
mhm.
wanted to buy new. And so then I started looking at the Ford Transit, which is a really
Okay.
nice vehicle. They're very comfortable to drive. I mean, anybody can work on them. I mean, they're really nice. And so they wanted, I think, $75,000. And I
Cool.
had never heard of a cargo van for $75,000.
Mhm.
2 years ago, that van was $40,000.
Right.
And so, I obviously decided not to do that. I said, I'm not gonna spend that kind of money unless it has a water bed, a sink, a 60-inch TV in it, and all that stuff. So that didn't work. So I went to look for a ProMaster,
Mhm.
and it was kind of like the same scenario but cheaper. They didn't have it. They were having one built, and they didn't know when it was going to come in. So they actually said we can get you a 2022 Ram 3500 ProMaster. It's
Mhm.
159 wheelbase, extended high roof, payload capacity. I think it's about 4,600 pounds, which is really good.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, how much is it going to cost me? Well, it was only $46,000. I don't mind sharing that. So when I compare the Mercedes that was 80 something thousand,
Right.
Ford Transit was 75,000.
Mhm.
Well, that was a pretty easy decision to make. So
Mhm.
they had the one they were getting is it was a black one, which is what I ended up buying, and I really had some hesitation on that because black and it's really hot, and I'm in Texas. So, but I end up buying it. It is a really nice van, but when I bought it, I knew in order for me to go to work in it, it needed some customizations. Number one, I'm sleeping in it, need a bed. Number two, need air conditioner. I don't want to idle the van all day. And so I need a rooftop air conditioner. And I didn't know anything, Scott, about this. When
Mhm.
like I said, I used to be in 18 wheelers and you would idle those all night. Well,
Right.
cargo van's a little bit different. So I'm saying, well, can't be that big of a deal to get an air conditioner. Well, no, yes, and no. Getting an air conditioner is not an issue, but you need a generator to make it work. And you can't put the generator on the inside of your van,
Yes.
obvious reasons. So I ended up figuring that part out, and then I had to have it insulated so that the air conditioner would keep it cool. I had to put E-tracks on it to lock the freight down on it. As
Mhm.
I mentioned, the bed, toolbox area, I had to get a lot of stuff done. So you end up spending a lot of money just to get the van road ready, if you will. Um, the bulkhead, I think in most states now, when you're having a hauling freight, they want you to have a bulkhead separating you from the freight in the driving area. So it has been a process, but I've been researching it for a couple of years and I've been preparing for a couple of years to do it. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I am with it, and super excited about the van, by the way.
That's great. Yeah, I'd love to be able to take a look at it sometime or get some pictures. If I do, I'll definitely post them up.
Absolutely. I'll send them to you.
Okay, great. Well, Kenny, I really appreciate you hanging out with us today and telling us about trucking. And like I said, something I have no idea about, but I know a lot of people on the channel, a lot of people that are looking at getting into van life are going to be interested in this as a living. So thank you so much for all the information.
You're absolutely welcome. And don't forget, if you guys have any questions, boxtruckkenny@gmail.com if you have any questions.
Box Truck Kenny, and I also link your YouTube account and
Yeah.
it's Load
It's
Up
under
Trucking.
Load Up Transportation on YouTube. If you go to,
Sorry, Load
no,
Up
you're okay.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Okay,
You go to
I'll link
Load Up
that.
Transportation.
I'll definitely link that below. And thank you again so much for your time. I really enjoyed it.
Scott, thanks for having me on. I'm sorry I rambled so much, but us
Oh
radio
no, it's
people, we
great.
talk all day.
No, that's great.
Thank you for taking the time to have me on. I appreciate it.
Oh, enjoyed it. Enjoyed it. Hope to do it again.
All right.
And thank you everybody for watching all the way through this video. I know it ran a little bit long, but we got some great information from Kenny. And be sure to like and subscribe below. And we'll see you on the next video.